Hey, I'm Des.
Hey y'all, I'm Sai.
And we're the co-hosts of Let's Talk Sis podcast, where we truly believe that together empowered women can transform their lives.
Join us for heartfelt stories, enlightening conversations, and a whole lot of accountability along the way. Hey y'all.
Hey.
How you feeling today?
I feel good. I feel really good. My energy is good. I'm in a good mood today.
You look good.
Thank you. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
That's good.
I was going to say I'm feeling good without you asking me because y'all know I don't be smiling all the time. I have a very straight demeanor.
RBF.
Yeah, that's me real bad. But I feel like my cheeks hurt from smiling.
That's good. That's a great thing. That's always a good sign.
So I'm excited to jump into today's topic. But before we even do that, let's get into our conversational card game.
Yes, let's talk, sister.
Okay, some of the questions are just too deep, and this episode is not about the card. Maybe we'll do an episode like Tabitha Brown did when she got our card game.
When Tabitha and her husband played it on her talk show, a full episode just for our card game, by the way.
Yeah, maybe we'll do one of that. Because how Tab giving a whole podcast episode for our cards and we haven't.
Crazy.
Okay. Tabitha Brown, if you see this, we love you.
Yes, we do. And thank you again.
Yes. Okay, so this question says, what are some of your earliest memories of developing your self-esteem?
Oh. That wasn't the deep one? Some of my earliest memories would have had to been seeking for more independence in myself and like that self-validation in a sense. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like most of my childhood, and I can admit this now, but most of my childhood has been about making my family happy, doing what they think I should be doing or they want me to do, and like just kind of living for them, like making them happy. So at a old enough but young enough age, I was able to.
What age was that?
In my teens, I was in high school. So that's what I mean by old enough. Was when I was able to identify like this all along has not truly been what I fully wanted to do. And now I'm about to make my own decisions and do what I want to do for myself. So that's what I mean by like that self-validation, opposed to just doing what my mom think is best or my nana think is best. So
okay,
yeah.
I guess if I had to, I've never asked myself this question, right? I don't even remember, I don't remember anything positive about building my self-esteem because I always, as a child, maintained a level of confidence and sureness when it came to myself. And I think that's because I had a childhood where I had to be much more mature, right?
Yeah.
And also, I also felt like when I was a child, if I don't have me, if I'm insecure, if I'm all of these things, then who am I going to go to, right? And just in hindsight, right, I remember my first negative impression when it came to my self-esteem, right? Was my mom. She used to always be like, you so ugly, things like that, right? The only thing about you is that you're light skinned. That's the only good thing about you, right? Because I'm Jamaican and colorism and all of those things are very dominant in Caribbean background households or whatever the case may be. So I think that was something that could have definitely impacted or left an imprint on my self-esteem. But I never accepted her words, if that makes sense. I never internalized it and took it personal. I was just like, you really a hater, And I had that from maybe 9, 10. Okay. I remember being a little girl and just actively being like, you really a hater. That's disgusting. So I never really went through that point of trying to navigate my way through confidence and self-esteem. But that's a really good question because I never thought about that.
That's something you never think about. And then real quick to go back though, for me, I feel like mine's was internally.
What do you mean?
Like, well, I'm the only child, and I'm like, you witnessed a little bit like how me and my mom's relationship is, and I feel like the imprint that my mom left on me of how I like based on how I should feel about myself wasn't healthy. I felt like I was better than everybody. And being as though I'm the only child, I mean, that was
There
what
was
it was
nobody.
in my household,
Yeah.
right? But being in the real world, like that main character syndrome hit real hard. Like I thought I was better than every single body. So it wasn't until, like I said, too late kinda in high school when I started realizing like I need to build my internal confidence.
That's
More
good.
of
Okay, I
like,
get what you're saying.
way past the just
Exterior, what I look like, what I
what you
got
look like,
that
what
you
you
don't
got.
got. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good.
So yeah, huge turning point.
That's really
I think
good.
that's good.
That's really good. I might have to journal about that. Okay, so today's topic, I really am excited for this because I just want to have this conversation. You know, I want to
Yeah.
pick your brain a little bit, and then I'm sure this is relatable for you as well, but I want to touch bases on identifying and taking inventory of the relationships and connections that you have, you know,
Yeah.
whether it be intimate or platonic, but just how do you know when something is an attachment or an assignment? Like, this is ordained, this
Yeah.
is meant to be, versus I'm clinging here out of lack for something,
Or
whether
out
it
of
be fair or
comfortability.
comfort. Yeah, when, you know?
Yeah.
So, I guess my first question would be, how do you know when a connection, intimate or platonic, is an assignment or it's just an attachment?
Well, first, I feel like you can base it off of what is in the center of the relationship. Like, what is in the center of it? Like, do you all have God in the center of it? Is gossip the center of it? Like, every time you communicate with this person, you are around this person, what is the substance or what is like the grit of what y'all are built off of? What is the foundation? Do y'all come together often to discuss y'all future, or do you come together often just to reminisce on the past? Do you come together to talk about God, or do you come together to talk about other people? So I based it off of like not once but continuous conversations, because then it's like, because you gotta take inventory, you have to go back. I don't think it's something that you always notice or recognize in the moment. For me anyway, I have to go back and like, okay, the last 5 times I talked to you, I felt like this after our conversation. Or the last few times I talked to you, I wasn't able to talk at all. You know? So I think it's just going back and taking that inventory on, you know, what's the meat of the dynamic.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And you said something that was interesting. You said that we should essentially pay attention to to the dynamic, but also sometimes you have to go back because you don't realize it in the moment, right?
Yeah.
And I think that I might have answered one of the questions that I had for you, or maybe you answered it while responding, but I feel like when you're in dynamics and situations that you've outgrown, you no longer have to wait for that moment to look back. You feel it right then and there in that moment. Because there's been times where I've had an old friend call me, and then you feel the energy shift on the phone, and you like,
Yeah.
girl, I'm gonna call you back. Like, girl,
I'm gonna talk to you another time.
Yeah, hold on,
Yeah.
somebody calling me real quick, and I'm not entertaining
That's
the
very
conversation.
true.
So I feel like, if you are in a moment where you feel like you have to reflect back on to identify that this person doesn't serve you, then that shows where you are, and maybe you've just recently grown out of it in comparison to being able to pick up on it right then and there in that moment. Yep. So that's a good way to take like self-inventory of where you are and the role that you play in this dynamic, right? Because I think if you don't realize it in the moment, that means that you're a part of what it is that's happening. You're indulging in what it is that's happening, right?
Very true.
And it takes a moment for it to settle in, for the smoke to clear, to be like, something's not right about that. How come I wasn't able, like, I felt like this person released or this person dumped, but I didn't really get to get my stuff off either or put my 2 cents into the conversation.
But how does that mean that you were involved in it if you realize, for example, that specifically, if you realize afterwards, I wasn't able to add my side or I wasn't able to say how I felt? If you don't realize that in the moment, how does that mean that you are involved?
Because I feel like the fact that you even had the urge to even want to respond and felt like you wanted to put your 2 cents in, even though the space wasn't allotted, you still had the desire to, kind of shows that like I'm a part of this. I was interested in putting my 2 cents or giving sharing my opinion or gossiping or putting my 2 cents. You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. So I think I was looking at it from like a whole different side because when I was saying that, as far as, oh, I didn't even get to talk, or I didn't, even if it's just on how you feel, or you know how your day's been going, what's been going on, that's what I mean, that type of thing. Say if I call you and you're telling me, oh, I had the worst week ever, and you're telling me this, that, and the third, and I just called you to check up on you, but not once in that conversation did you ask me how I was doing. So that's how I look at it. Not more so I'm putting my 2 cents into the story that you're giving. I'm saying more so like that. You just called me to dump and you didn't call me for an actual conversation or to talk to your friend.
Okay, so my next question is, what's the balance between dumping and venting?
I feel like there's a very, very thin line. I believe dumping is when it's repetitive. If I haven't talked to you in however long, or if we don't talk often about this specific situation, you could talk to me as your friend. You can talk to me for however long you want to talk about whatever it is that's bothering you. I would consider that venting. But now if you're calling me every single day with the same problem, and we're not talking about solutions, or we're not talking about how you're going to get out that problem or how to improve it, that's dumping. And now I don't know. Now it's annoying a little bit. I feel like there's a thin line between it, though, because you should be able to vent to your friends. I should be able to tell you that my life is falling apart right now, and I shouldn't feel guilty about it. But now if I'm doing it every single day without saying, like, you know, girl, I'm going to just start doing this, or what you think I should do, or, you know, if it's like a repetitive thing with no end goal or solution, that's when I would consider it dumping. So I don't know. What would be your take on that?
I think that dumping and venting actually don't have a thin line. I think that they're the same thing. And I always compare like both of them to like an orgasm, like a form of release, right? I think that that's like an energy transfer. And no, I'm being transparent. It's really like an energy transfer when you argue, when people vent, like when you're having sex, like those are specific energy transfers, right? So I think that what you were explaining was the intention behind it, but I think that the dumping and venting is, to me, is the same thing, because you're taking your energy here and I'm receiving it. And a lot of times after having those conversations, whether it be dumping or venting, I'm left with it. They don't have it. They don't possess the energy anymore.
You know, that's absolutely true. I've never even thought about it that way, because now I'm thinking about times when I was in that position of dumping, venting, I guess at this point, whatever you want to call it. Afterwards, you don't feel it no more.
Yeah, like arguing too. You ever argue back with somebody instead of being a bigger person, and you like, oh, I'm glad. Like you feel like a sense of relief.
Yes, because then when you feel like you try to be a bigger person and don't argue, now you're thinking about it. I should have said this, or you're thinking about every little thing that they said that you didn't respond to.
Yeah. So it's right up there on my list next to an orgasm, to be honest. And I just think that the energy is like misdirected in a sense, or can be easily. But I definitely understand what you were explaining. And I think that as a friend, being mindful, like the person who, you know, needs to express themselves for I don't know. So the person that needs to express themselves as a friend needs to, I think that friends just need to be more mindful of the energy transfer, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we can't even really have this conversation. I mean, we can have it amongst us, but we can't really have this conversation until humans come to a point of understanding what, like how much energy we possess. Okay. And that everything we do is an energetic move.
I agree with that 1,000%, but in saying that, are you saying you shouldn't be able to, your friends, you shouldn't vent to your friends?
I'm saying that that's okay to vent to your friends. Mm-hmm. But as a friend, as a human being, we need to know how much power we possess, how much energy we have within us, so that we can be more mindful of, okay, this is another human who is receiving my negative energy. Because if you don't know that this is an energy exchange, you don't know how mindful to be. So I'm mindful of that, right? So I'll come in the car after whatever the case may be. Like, we're driving somewhere, whatever the case may be. And I'm like, this and the third, da, da, da. You know how our brains go. Conversation A, B, C. But at the end of it, what you do today? Because I'm mindful that I just dumped.
Oh, okay.
So I'm pulling your energy back.
Got it.
I'm pulling your energy back so that it's a tug of war type of thing. And people don't see because it's not a physical thing.
Yeah.
People don't really realize it's not that their intention is malicious, but I don't think people realize
back and forth.
That outside of this paradigm that we can see physically, that there's something that happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, what you said, how you follow it back up at the end, I can receive that. With dumping or venting or whatever, you just drop how you feel and everything, and then that just be the end of the conversation.
No, I'm okay with that sometimes, depending on what it's about. I'm okay with that. But what I'm not okay with is the pattern that you spoke about. And that's why I said intention. Because I genuinely think that people who consider themselves to be friends, they call you specifically, because I've had friends who I haven't talked to in months, but every time they call me is to tell me or update me on the negative stuff, or tell me this, or because they feel like I'm a place of safety for them, right?
Yeah.
There's a sense of security that I provide. And I'm okay with that. But what I'm not okay with is when it becomes a pattern on multiple different occasions. Exactly. Yeah. So it's like,
you're not thinking. That's what I mean by you're not thinking about me at all.
But what I'm saying is intention. I don't think that sometimes I don't think they're being malicious. I think because they need a moment of security or safety, they go to who the first person is that.
Correct.
Oh, so Destiny, I know she never judged me. Destiny always listened. She never interrupted me. I really need to get this off my chest right now. I'm going to call the first person that comes to mind when I think about security.
Right, but it's like what I don't understand sometimes, and I was in this position before, but what I don't understand sometimes is, that wasn't your intention, but at no point do you become aware.
Unless you mention it. Some people really lack self-awareness. And that's why I said I'm happy that I'm aware. Yeah. Because sometimes you can't charge things to people that they really just are ignorant about, you know?
Very true. I think that's really good. There has been a lot of times in different areas of my life, of course, but there has been many times where I feel like I was on the other end of that. I have plenty of times been on the end of the person that they call just to dump. But I feel like I can take accountability now that I've also been on the end of calling somebody to dump. But I feel like even if in the moment I wasn't aware, I immediately after became aware or whatever. Because once, like you said, it's an energy shift. After you give all of that energy and you dump and you drop everything that you've been having going on, once you release that and you feel clear, then it's like, now you don't feel bad. Like, I don't know. I've been that person that feels bad afterwards. Like, damn, I just, like, how you doing? Yeah. After the conversation, it's like, now, like, that was a lot. I know. I'm sorry. Like, what's going on with you? Like, immediately after is when I become aware.
Yeah.
So,
I'm so happy we're having this conversation, because I'm praying that this conversation evokes a sense of mindfulness when it comes to how you show up and what you give in relationships and dynamics, right? But going back to assignment versus attachment, right? Yeah. What are some external, like, physical attributes that you've noticed about yourself when you've stayed in a dynamic or relationship way past the purpose?
Personally, feeling depleted in a sense.
Absolutely.
I don't feel good. There has been times, like, sometimes being there for other people and making people happy makes me happy. But then once it feels like I'm just giving, and that is in regards to anything, but just giving, and I don't feel good. I don't feel checked up on. I don't feel like I've been nourished. I don't feel the companionship. Like, I feel absolutely nothing. That's when it's like, this is not going to work. Like, once I get to the moments of, okay, I'm not getting poured into, or I'm not receiving whatever I'm given in this dynamic, and I have to be there and, replenish myself, I need to take a little break from that.
Yeah.
Because now you're just pulling everything from me, and where am I getting it back from?
So you said take a break from that. Do you think that it's necessary to take a break or disconnect? Because in what seasons how do we identify whether we disconnect or we take a step back?
Well, I feel like that's determined on the situation specifically. I think that's a little bit subjective. Because there are some situations where seasons are just different. We could be on two different seasons in this moment, or two different phases, or we could have completely grown away from each other, like you said. I feel like you only know by taking that step back, though. I feel like you only know by taking that step back. Because you might take that step back and realize, like, okay, that was just a season. That was just a moment for her or him or me. And then now we can reconnect. We know we filled ourselves back up, or whatever the case may be. But then there are other moments when you could take that break and realize that this is way further than a break. Like, this should be forever.
It should be forever.
And then you should go on with that.
That's so real. The fact that you said that this should be forever is like that intuitive feeling that lets you know that something isn't serving you, right?
Correct.
And then I also think that maturity is another pillar that plays a huge role in a decision like that, because there's been times where I might have gone into isolation unintentionally or maybe intentionally, and I've had people turn against, like my friends who I felt like were going to be there waiting for me on the other side of this line or this tunnel that I was going through, and they weren't there. They felt some type of way because of my distance. And I think that I'm saying this out loud, but I also think communication is very huge as well, right? I just recently had a conversation with one of my sisters, and I didn't talk to her for like 4 months. And she was basically saying, like, I just felt like, I seen she unfollowed me on Instagram, and I see she unfollowed me on Twitter, and I don't say stuff like that personal at all, but then I see she unfollowed me on like TikTok, and I was like, okay, she unfollowed me because I'm one of those people where it's like, we could be friends or not, but if I don't like your content, I'm unfollowing you. I'm gonna catch up with you in real life, and it's all love, right? But when I see her follow me, I'm like, girl, personal. I don't even post content. This is personal. Girl, this is personal. And I called her. I texted her. And then I called her. And she was basically saying, like, you just up and disappear. And it just left this unsettling feeling, this and the third. And long story short, we talked about it. And I was like, at the end of it, I was like, I guess I could have communicated a little bit more. But I was under this assumption that everybody who was close to me knew what was going on. It was nothing going on major, but was aware of the space that I was in because I posted it in my close friends. I be feeling like that's a whole nother thing. I be feeling like whatever I post in my close friends is one size fit all. So if I'm posting, I'm cooking out today, everybody in here that can read that, come get a plate. If I say, y'all, I'm going on a little hiatus, do not disturb, this is for everybody, Yeah,
that's something that's really good, actually, the communication aspect. And that's something I believe I need to work on, because I'm the same way. Like, when I'm going through something, not even with you saying, like, oh, I was posting on my close friends, I don't post it nowhere. If I'm going through something, you only know if you're in close proximity, like physically around me, to know, or once I'm past it. You won't know. Like, when I was going through my something, I feel like probably you knew, because I was around you all the time. And I didn't even probably tell you in the moment. But, like, I don't talk about it at all. I definitely assume. Just get the energy. Like, I be feeling like people should know me. Like, I wouldn't just disappear on you. Like, you got to know it's something going on for me to do that. Like, yeah. So that's really good, though, the communication aspect. And that takes maturity and awareness. But I also feel like another part of that is when you're deeply going through something or in a certain phase of your life, well, for me anyway, my first thought isn't the other people around me. It's not, if I'm going through something, if I'm in depression, if I'm not getting out of my bed or picking up my phone, I'm not thinking about how Sa feels or what Sa thinks. Yeah. Because I'm going through something. Yeah. So I feel like there's a little line, and there's grace that should be held in those type of predicaments, because
I mean, she took accountability as well.
No, I'm
for
not talking
her
about your
aspect.
situation
I'm
specifically.
saying
Yeah.
no. I'm sorry. Saying that because she took grace, it showed me both perspectives.
Okay.
So I definitely understand what
Yeah.
you're saying. Because to me, I was calling to apologize, so I wasn't expecting an apology in in return.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely opened my perspective up to the communication aspect that I think that we miss whenever we're navigating dynamics like that. But going back to like being involved with things that no longer serve us or like out of season.
Yeah.
I think once I arrived to a situation with the disposition of I can no longer afford this, I'm over it. Like, I can't afford to pick up the phone and sit on the phone with you. I can't afford to hang out with you and just get content and do shallow, like, small talk. And, like, what's the fruit? And I think that's what we need to...
We just talked about that, too.
Yeah, like, what's the fruit?
What's the purpose? What's the outcome?
Yeah, like, what's coming from this?
Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah, what's the point?
I feel like that's a mindset change as well, though, to even start thinking of things in that aspect of... what's the point of this? What's the purpose of this? Yeah. I feel like even as far as dating, I think we was talking about this on a previous season, and this is when I was actually dating a little bit. And I don't remember specifically, but you used to ask me, like, you really like him? You gonna be with him? And I'd be like, not really. Well, what are you doing? What's the point? And I'm like, Now that's really how I be thinking. Like, I won't even engage with people because it's like, what's the point?
Literally.
So I think that's really good. And it comes with growth. Yeah. It all comes with growth.
Yeah. I think it comes with experience as well, because as you experience more, I feel like your perspective or the gauges on your eyes, like the lens get wider.
Yes.
Right? So I think you not only see it from like this narrow perspective of just yourself, but you're able to see in totality and be like, okay, this is what Destiny sees. This is what I see.
Yeah.
And then I guess like the
what
reality
really is. Yeah.
Yeah, the reality of the situation. I think that's really important as well.
So how are you able to dictate, because you asked me, but I want to ask you a similar question. How are you able to dictate when it's time for it to be up, like a season is up completely with somebody?
Okay, so there's so many ways to navigate this, and I think that my first response now is going to be discernment and prayer, right? Allowing the Holy Spirit to really just inform me, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to resort to that because I feel like my first instinct is going to be my intuition, right? There's a feeling that you get internally, and I believe that is how the Lord speaks to us, right? So whatever feeling you get, you know, like when something's just off, you can feel it. And women, I feel like, are so intuitive. Like, listen to that first impression that you get, I think is how I'm able to discern what's for me and what no longer serves me. So that was good.
I think that's really good. I'm gonna just add off that real fast and then we can. But I want to add that right there, going off that feeling. I don't know if you remember a certain relationship I was telling you, and it was like a part of my mind knew that this is no longer for me. This area of my life is over. This is going, but I couldn't put my finger on it. But I remember having a conversation with you. I remember being in the car and I was like, I just don't like how I feel around this person, or I just don't like, nothing happens, nothing bad is, I just don't feel good. And I feel like that's also like a huge part, going with your intuition and your gut feeling and not questioning yourself or doubting yourself. So yeah, I agree. I think that was really good. I think this was very necessary.
This was good. I can't wait to hear y'all feedback on this episode, because I know y'all found this relatable, whether it was on either side of the fence. And just having conversations like this, I think, shows us our inwardness in a sense of like, what do we need to work on? Where are we at? Like, take inventory not only of others, your dynamics and stuff like that, but take inventory of yourself. You know?
I think that's really good.
So what's your word of advice?
I'm gonna actually piggyback off of that. My word of advice will most certainly be to go with yourself. Yeah. Go with your gut feeling. Don't question yourself. You know what's best for you. I'm looking at you. You know what's best for you. Yeah, go with your gut feeling though. You got to do what serves the best purpose for you. Can't nobody else decide that for yourself. So
that's good. My word of advice for the sisters would be, don't let anybody box you in. You know, I think that every time I've been put into a box, I've feel myself like experiencing resistance. And I think that a lot of times when we have this vision or when we have this feeling, whether it be our intuition or we set this goal for ourselves, I think a lot of times it's not meant for everybody to understand, right? And sometimes we prioritize our relationships based off of who's closest to us, and we start to value their input in something, right?
Yeah.
And I want to say, don't let nobody box you in. I don't care if who it is, how close y'all are. If God put something on your heart, gave you a vision, allowed you to see something, think it, whatever the case may be, it's possible. It's more than possible. And don't matter about what you have right now to establish it or achieve it, whatever the case may be. Stay steadfast in what's on your heart.
Yeah.
Don't let nobody box you in. Kick the box down, bust through the ceiling, kick the walls down, whatever you got to do to get to that. Get outside the box, okay? The best stuff happens outside the box. Everybody's in the box. The best stuff happens outside the box. So that's my word of advice.
I think that was good. So yeah, guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode. And I want you guys to give your feedback, of course. I want y'all to join the conversation, comment.
Join the community.
Yeah.
Take this time. If y'all are listening to this right now, I challenge you to stop what you're doing and download Mighty Network, become a part of our interactive community, because we have conversations like this amongst one another intimately every week on our Girl Talk segment.
Yeah.
And not only that, just come and fellowship and be a part of what it is we're cultivating and curating. So that's my challenge for y'all. Become a member of the community.
But I want to piggyback. This is not only for the girls. The guys watch us too.
Okay, they do.
So for the guys that watch us too, comment, give us your opinion, join the conversation, and let us know, how do you know when your relationships are over? How do you know when a phase in your life is no longer serving you or is no longer good for you?
Yeah. And wait, one more thing. Before we go, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, comment, like, subscribe. And if you're listening to this on any of your favorite Audible platforms, don't forget to give us 5 stars and comment.
Toodles.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into our podcast, Let's Talk Sis, with Des and Sa.
Stay connected by following us on all of your favorite social media platforms. And don't forget, use hashtag Dear Sister Let's Talk to find us.
Wait, before you go, head over to our website or our Instagram and join our interactive community for a daily dose of sisterhood, where like-minded women fellowship, encourage, and create a safe space amongst one another.
See you inside, sis.
Toodles.
Bye.